We got some breaking news coming out here. The Las Vegas Raiders have officially made a trade for quarterback Geno Smith. And I'm excited to get into this one, man. The Raiders, who have been looking at so many different quarterbacks, we've heard they were all in on Matthew Stafford. We heard that they may have shifted to Sam Darnold, among some of the other guys, right? The Justin Fields, the Russell Wilsons. The Raiders have officially made that trade for quarterback Geno Smith. If you guys watched my video earlier, I talked about how Deanna Rossini is a very solid insider, and she put it out there that the Raiders are looking at the veteran quarterback market, including a starting quarterback on a current team, and it looks like Geno Smith was that quarterback for the Raiders. The Raiders are going to give up a third-round pick for Geno Smith. And, you know, it's interesting because I know so many people have already posted that they don't love bringing in Geno Smith. And I'll be the first to say, guys, I kind of agree with that. You know, statistically, Geno Smith has not been great, right? Over the last 3 years, he's only kind of gotten worse and worse and worse, with this past season being his worst of the 3 seasons. He had 30 touchdowns to 11 interceptions 3 seasons ago. And then most recently, he had 21 touchdowns to 15 interceptions. And that's by no means good, right? 21 touchdowns to 15 interceptions is not good if you guys ask me. And now the Raiders are going to have to pay Geno Smith as well. And Deanna Rossini saying that Geno Smith wants somewhere between 40 to 45 million a year. To me, that's a lot of money, right? Geno Smith, can he win the big game for the Raiders at 35 years old? Is Geno Smith good enough to be able to help the Raiders get over the top? You know, to me, it's an interesting decision by the Las Vegas Raiders, however you look at it, because Geno Smith, although he has had one really, really good years, he hasn't been all that good all the other years. And I think it's one of those things where when you bring in Geno Smith, is he your only quarterback for this season? Is the only quarterback you're going to keep on this roster over the next couple of seasons? Are you 100% invested in Geno Smith, or is Geno Smith the potential bridge? Maybe you bring in Will Howard, maybe you bring in one of these other quarterbacks in the second or third round. It's going to be interesting how the Raiders kind of move forward, but it does look like, at least for this next season, Geno Smith will be the Raiders quarterback. Now, keep in mind, he is under contract this season. The Raiders will only have to owe him, from my understanding, his cap hit this year will be $31 million. The Seattle Seahawks will eat $13.5 million. So his cap hit this year will be $31 million, which isn't terrible in my opinion, right? $31 million for a starting quarterback is, you know, it's on the lower end for a starting caliber quarterback that's not on a rookie contract. Now, he does want a new contract, and it will be interesting to see where that kind of comes out to. Generally speaking, I think Geno Smith should be at about $30 million. You know, I wouldn't be too happy if we gave him like $45 million. But the Raiders are going forward with Geno Smith. They did give up a third-round pick. Again, you know, it's unfortunate for the Raiders because going in with Geno Smith now means that, you know, you're out on guys like Shador, you're out on Cam Ward, you're not bringing those guys in. But I do like the fact that going in with Geno Smith now means that the Raiders are in win now mode, right? We talked about this when Maxx Crosby signed his contract. The fact that the first 2 years, the cap hits were a lot higher and he had a lot of guaranteed money in those 2 years. The fact that he had no guaranteed money in those last 3 years, again, told me that he wanted the Raiders to kind of go all in. And it seems like the Raiders are taking that same approach, right? They're going to go all in. They're going to try to win that Super Bowl. And let's talk about if the Raiders can realistically win a Super Bowl. You know, Geno Smith is not a great quarterback, right? He is not Patrick Mahomes. He's not Josh Allen. But Geno Smith, in a good scheming system, could help win. Now, can you win a Super Bowl? That is yet to be seen, right? Can Geno Smith win in the playoffs? That is yet to be seen. Geno Smith has had success, but can he get over the top for a team? Can he make a team that much better that they're able to win a Super Bowl? That's yet to be seen. And truth be told, for Geno Smith to have success, everything around him has to be perfect. Now, we do have Brock Bowers, which will help Geno Smith, but we don't have a lot of other weapons that are true game changers, right? We had heard that DK Metcalf could be a guy that the Raiders could potentially pursue. We do have Jacoby Myers, who's pretty solid, but we don't have a true X receiver yet. But the fact that the Raiders do go in with Geno Smith as their quarterback, that means with the 6th overall pick, you can easily draft a wide receiver, right? A true X wide receiver. So the Raiders, could they actually win a Super Bowl in this upcoming year? Absolutely, but they do have to do some things, right? It's not going to be perfect. It's not like Geno Smith's going to carry you and he's going to throw for 4,500 yards, 50 touchdowns. They're going to win a Super Bowl in that instance. For the Raiders to win this year, they're going to definitely have to rely on their defensive line, and they're going to have to revamp that defensive line. They're going to have to, take that defensive line, make sure they bring back Malcolm Koonce, and if it's not Koonce, maybe it's Trey Hendrickson, maybe it's one of these other elite edge rushers. And they got to really, really revamp that defensive line where Maxx and Christian and whoever that other defensive end is, they can carry this team, right? And they can carry the defense. We've seen the Eagles do it now where if you have a good defensive line, you can actually have success. We've seen other, like the Chiefs do it, right? Where they have a great defensive scheme and they're able to have success. Now, obviously the Chiefs have Patrick Mahomes, but we've seen the Chiefs offense not have as much success over the past 3 years. And it's been the defense that's kind of carried them. So for the Raiders, could Geno Smith win a Super Bowl? It's going to really come down to, can the defense carry him? Can the pass rush carry him? It's going to be interesting. We're going to find out a lot about the Las Vegas Raiders as we kind of go forward. I will also say this, we have to shore up our offensive line. Under James was cut earlier, which makes sense. By cutting him, I think we saved like $6 million or something to that tune. It made sense to cut Andre James. He wasn't going to be our starting center anyways. You save that cap, and now you can go out and say, let's spend $6 million, and maybe you add three, 4, or 5 more, and you get a legit starting guard, right? In order for Geno Smith to have success, you got to have a good offensive line around him. And I'd even make the argument the Seattle Seahawks offensive line 3 years ago was actually pretty good. And I think that was a part of why Geno Smith had a lot more success that year, and he kind of started to fall off a little bit. The offensive line got banged up. They let some of their offensive linemen kind of leave, right? Damian Lewis ended up on the Panthers this past season, and they really, really fell off, right? So I think for the Raiders, to allow Geno Smith to have success, you got to have a good defense, but you got to have a good offensive line as well, right? And you're even just kind of looking as we go forward, the Raiders, as we build, as you go out there and say, what's the plan with Geno Smith? I think the best thing the Raiders can do is say, hey, we need to get a good running back. We need to shore up the offensive line. We need to get guards that are people movers, right? A guy like Tevin Jenkins would be a great example of a guy you should potentially bring in. Because Jenkins is not only an elite guard, but he's a people mover. You put Jenkins and Jackson Powers-Johnson together, you draft, one of the top 2 or 3 running backs in this class. You have a legit run game right then and there, right? Colt Miller's already one of the best run blocking tackles in the NFL. Powers-Johnson's legit. You bring in a guy like Tevin Jenkins. You leave that other guard position kind of open, right? Alex Kappa, Dylan Parham. Let those guys kind of compete it out. Right tackle would obviously be DJ Glaze until he proves that he's not the guy. And of course, bring in Tetra McMillan or bring in Travis Hunter, right? Bring in a true number 1 wide receiver. And you kind of put that type of offense around Geno Smith. And I think the Raiders can actually have success this year. Geno Smith will be the Las Vegas Raiders starting quarterback as we kind of go forward. Again, it will be interesting to see if the Raiders still double down and bring in another quarterback. They released Gardner Minshew the other day, or at least they put the report out that they're going to be releasing him. And then once they put that report out, we heard Aiden O'Connell's working out with Tom Brady. A lot of people were excited for Aiden O'Connell to potentially be the guy. And then this morning we got that report by Deanna Rossini that the Raiders were interested in a veteran quarterback that's currently a starter. And Geno Smith was the guy that I think a lot of people were kind of saying earlier this morning that Geno Smith kind of makes the most sense for the Raiders. He's a veteran quarterback. Pete Carroll has had success with him. Plus, I talked about it earlier as well, the Seahawks are kind of in that mini rebuild, right? They kind of want to restart. And I think moving off of Geno made a whole lot of sense for them. Did the Raiders give up too much? That's another question that a lot of people have been saying on social media. I do think the 3rd round pick is a lot for Geno Smith. I'm honestly not 100% confident in Geno Smith. I do think we'll be a lot better this year, right? I do think the Raiders will have, I think the Raiders will legitimately make the playoffs this year with Geno Smith. Will we win playoff games? Will we win the Super Bowl? That is to be seen. I think depending on what our team looks like, that's going to really determine that. I do think we'll make the playoffs with Geno Smith. I think he's an upgrade over who we've had over the last 3 or 4 years. But I'm still not 100% confident that he's good enough to get it done. But I think Chip Kelly is also one of the better offensive coordinators we've had now since John Gruden, right? So we'll see what ends up happening. Let me know what you guys think, man. Are you guys excited for Geno Smith? Are you not excited for him? I'm not going to lie to you guys, man. I'm not super excited, but we'll see what ends up happening. It is an upgrade no matter how you look at it. Let me know what you guys think, man. Thumbs up, subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time with another video.